Okay, this is not gonna take too long. What we're gonna discuss today is answer on some questions from chats, talking about announcement on official launch, also take some statistics, and then talk a little more. And starting from this statistic, we have 22,873 people who wish to still going with us to cooperate and working alongside, and 3,121 who refused and decided to finish their work. And yes, right from the question, is there still time to make a decision for those partners who was not aware about the situation, who were on vacation or maybe was not in access? Yes, there's still time. We given 1 week, another week for partners, so they could actually get acquainted with information and make a decision on either continue working or terminate the contract. Now to the question, will that decision actually delay, postpone the launch of the product? No, the Monday is basically the deadline, the first day of June. It's gonna be the official launch of the product, and it will be happen no matter if not all the people gonna actually make a decision. The next question, those partners who already make the decision actually decide to change it for some reason. The question, could they actually do that if they change their mind when they already actually choose an option? No, the answer is no. So be aware of that when you click on an option and then click on another button to continue with that option. You already decided permanently. So please be aware of that and what your decision. You cannot undo that. The next thing, since people who choose the terminate option, they see amount of funds they will be compensated and the date, but there was a bug that all the partners receive not correct amount. It was displayed incorrectly, which is the reason because of reinvest. Reinvest was actually accounted as the reason that was not for some reason accounted for compensating, but now it's going to be fixed and everyone will see the correct number. Now the question about the working with different cryptocurrencies. As we know, we starting from USDT, but USDT working in pairs with different cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and it's also mean that the percentage from arbitration is also on the high level because it's basically working with Bitcoin and Ethereum, of course. Do we plan actually to add in more cryptocurrencies? At the current moment, no, but it's possible in the future, because why we not adding it right now? Basically because it's not very convenient to count all the programs and rewarding system at the current moment. But there would be a vote, and if for some reason lots of partners gonna ask to work in with this or that cryptocurrencies, yes, then we're considering adding it. But at the current moment, we working with the main asset, which is USDT, working with other payers. Now, about the certain statement from some partners who talking that we actually not giving them a choice, that we force them to make investment. First of all, we not force anyone to make a decision like one way or nonetheless making a deposit. Then we actually could check the chat. We see, especially in the international chat, where some people actually complained, but actually choose the option continue working, despite they making a lot of nasty words in chat. And there was like 80 people who go into the ban, basically in blacklist. We checked their accounts. All of them basically received 250 or 300% from their investment. Which lead to a question, why? The company already basically made and paid the obligation, and it doesn't mean you basically receive from $25,000, $75,000. I don't think the company actually need to give you something more, because you basically received a lot already. And you can't actually terminate the contract because you wouldn't get anything else. But this is ridiculous. And please, I very kindly ask you, my beloved partners, especially those, who are using nasty words, watch your tone and what you speak. Control your emotions, please, because we check those accounts and we actually seek those people and ban them because we don't think such people belong to our community. Please be aware of that. Okay, now I check in also a question that's coming to me personally and in chats, and yes, there is a list of already scheduled questions, including some sticky ones. So let's get back on the road to them. So the next question is how many actual options here for the member when they choosing continue working? What is the step-by-step unfrozen of funds? And do we need to actually put deposits to make it work step by step? Let us begin with this question. Now, there was a question that led to me in person, also in the chat, from a member who writes not many words, but it's actually a good question here. If I have in my first line personally invited 50 members, would they actually consider it as a step-by-step unfrozen of funds if I working with such line or not? The answer is yes. Of course, yes. If a member actually working with their first line, if they working with their assets, they spending time and efforts to actually doing something, then yes, you can unfroze your funds basically without making deposit yourself because you put your efforts on the line. And it's one of the way when you working with your first line. It is an option. Now, about partial unfrozen of funds. There was a question. For example, let's put an example. You have before there was a froze of assets. You have $1,000 of your own deposit. And by the partial frozen, it means we separate this 1,000 in 10 pieces. And for every time you deposit $250, we unfrozen one part of it, which is $100. And in the summarizing, it's $350. There is a question to that as well. If I doing the reinvest, basically, does the amount on reinvest actually account into unfrozen? Yes, it is, because we working with your assets and you basically making a deposit through reinvest, you adding more funds into the flow and we actually accounting it for the unfrozen of funds. So yes, it is working like that. Now, about the recalculation and for those people who choose termination of contracts, how exactly we make it to the actual date we show in display to what date you receive the compensation, which is up to 14 months. Basically, we choose with the scenario when 50% of people actually choose termination of contracts. And it's including that the fact that we have 41,000 active members. So yes, it was showing that way, but this data is actually changing because it includes two factors here. First is amount of funds we have unfrozen, and there is plenty of funds that could be unfrozen, which also gonna increase the whole pace, and it's mean the date gonna be lesser. And also the percentage comparison, which is actually, as we can see now, only 12% of people actually choose the option of terminating the contract, which also gonna affect the date from 14 to 5 or maybe 4 months in total. It's all depend on what we actually get at the end of the voting. Now let's get to some interesting questions and even guessing. I could even tell them silly trash talks because you're gonna understand by the logic of answers I gonna say to you here. Let's get into that. So yes, one of such question was the fact that since Evgeny 11 talk about working with foundations and they actually already approved cooperation and working with funds, why not just basically distribute such funds that was provided by funds to the people who choose termination? I think you understand already what kind of question it is. It was turned down pretty quickly by moderation. And you just need the basic common sense that when the foundation provide you with funds to work we have the responsibility on that funds and we have our own obligation. And the only thing we could do is actually paying from the money, from the profit we received from working with such funds. We cannot just basically take money the fund give us and spread it to other people. It would be irresponsible and disrespectful both for the foundation and for us, and nobody would work with us from that moment if we choose such a decision. So it's a basic sense here. Just need to think about it a little. All right. The second question was actually from Ukrainian chat. I think you remember those people from the first basic stage when there was people who write to exchanges about the situation about frozen funds, and we asked them not to do so because when working with such exchanges, we positioned ourselves that we working with our own assets. And of course, when they answering us, they telling that, well, since there's a situation with dirty cryptocurrency, you should just let provide us with the KYC of those people who sent you those funds. And that's a lot. As you understand, it's only complicated the situation, so we ask not to do so because so-called support not helping. And by the time passed, those situations not just stopped, they continue to do so. And to understand that we couldn't affect it in any way, we can just basically track every single person and try to put inside their head a piece of our mind, some common sense. And this is the biggest problem of working with people because they so-called support is only making worse. And just imagine my face when I actually read one of the one of the summarized results of those action from one of the members. What he actually written. I read a message from Bybit. We never actually blocking any funds, and we definitely not blocking any more funds from our core at all. It's never happened, and so on. And after that, he write, think about it. I think you imagining how much it blow me. Okay, now to answering on that message when the Bybit writing that never in the world they would block any funds from the project, from our core and so on. First of all, not a single exchange in the world gonna actually respond to you that they blocking any kind of funds from any kind of project or from any kind of trader, because first of all, this is a damage for reputation. It's gonna shatter the structure and the face of the company or exchange. Not a single exchange actually also share the data about working or some processes with the companies that in the blacklist, if such companies are in them. This is also damage for the reputation. Before actually going into all of that, just first of all, try to Google thing and or ask AI. We are in 2026. We actually have an AI we can ask. Let me just ask myself, basically. It's gonna be briefly what we have here. What amount of funds was blocked from our core on Bybit? And it's actually written $250 million, 20,000 accounts without returning funds. By the thesis, KYC, dirty cryptocurrency, arbitration, and more theses here. But on 2026, there was the most recent action is blocking of the group of traders, the team of 15 traders with the funds from $0.5 million. And it's just recently official information what people actually provided and what they asked. So yes, the exchange itself have right to block funds, and they have right not to tell you because it's in their policy. And actually, it would be more correct if a person asked not about blocked funds, but about inspection or something like studying the company, because there is the actual time frame. It could be up to 10 years to inspect any project and so on. And any kind of company, provider, project, exchange, they never gonna actually tell you they blocked something. Just think about it a little more before trying to provide us with your understanding, your idea. Try to Google things. Because when you doing something with lack of information, the proved information, you just look like an idiot. I'm sorry if that's criticism, I know, but this is a look so dumb. It's unacceptable. And those systems, they actually was built it for years. We ourselves, with our experience, also see and provide actually written the policy that under any circumstances we shouldn't talk about blocking the funds from any project. And we also writing the same on our own when we working with our exchanges and so on. And when there's some kind of a coach trainer appears and talking they know more, you need to prove this information. Prove it, check it, and then maybe Google it at the very least. Ask AI, and then you need to shine with your opens ideas and so on. Now about the question on 𝗟𝗏 and OneTrade, you can actually written them. The technical support going to be working at Monday at the launch. So yes, please return the question and all of them would be answered. The next question is about filling up the data in your profile in OneTrade. Those actually going to be in access at tomorrow and after tomorrow. So yes, on those dates when all the data in the profile will be saved correctly. So if you wanted to actually confirm and fill out your data of your profile before the official launch, you could do exactly that, basically starting tomorrow. Okay, now to another question, or rather statement. Many partners actually named Hardcore and the OneTrade currently a financial pyramid. But, of course, thanks God there's people who not actually just say things, but actually go in and make analysis, trying to get into details, enter in data of the wallets, how it works, because we have this data, we actually share it in chats, and I also gonna mention it here. When we're talking about the company who have funds who entered is on the number of $38 million, and imagine how much going out. Paid, it's $84 million. In what kind of a financial permit there is twice as big amount that released from the company, not invested, released? And I understand the fact that there is a lot of such projects, pyramid hypes in the internet, and technologies is not stayed on one way. They always advancing, admins getting smarter, or kinda trying at least, but that's the way how business in this direction work. Yes, if we put it that way, that there is investment funds, 38 million, and we see by the data that it's 30 million going out, yeah, it means admin basically snatched $8 million and get done with it. This is financial pyramid, but what if the other way? If we see that the amount of funds that was released, that was paid, is twice as bigger than the amount that was invested, is it a pyramid or not? I understand it. I'm calm about the situation. I know there is a lot of people who actually understand how everything works, who get into details and actually checking information before trying to accuse or make conclusions or try to guess. That's the worst, basically. You can actually check yourself, even through services. It basically costs you like 1 hour and you see the results, the actual information with which you can operate. While all people who doesn't want to pay attention to that, or some black horses, they eventually gonna get out from the community. And from what we have here, we actually built a decent one that we gonna walk alongside with. I have a lot of people who written me in person, in personal messages, not pay attention to those clowns. I know the clowns, and I'm not actually paying too much attention to it. I'm not upset about that. I understand that moderation is also gonna get to working on that, and I I understand that I'm not just spending my time to basically trying to convince every single member in the chats. No, I have Zooms for that. I have the public international Zoom calls where everyone who understand enter and can actually receive some information, make some notes and understand plans, features, and understand why we done this or that. And we have 2,000 members here who actually paid attention and actually spend their time to work with the project. If there is people who didn't enter, didn't attend to the Zoom call, well, the choice is there. I cannot just basically beating them with stick to make him come in the conference room. It will not work in that way. And I think we can close this question about financial pyramids and so on once and for all. Basically check the info and data on wallets or your services whatsoever. We have everything in public and you will see that everything is working correctly. You will see proofs. The next question is a kind of rhetorical one. Does we work in the field of competition and rivalry, somehow just making sort of tools against our rivals? I could say that there is not actually any company that work like that. I not consider it as the proper competition, I might say, but there was projects that I consider really strong, like 𝗡𝗂𝗃, for example. It was a strong product, a great team, and it wasn't even a hype at first. They really traded, but they didn't handle the whole flow, and they actually get too much funds, and they come in every single day, and they just try to play with these funds. And of course, since they couldn't handle the volumes, they tried to play dirty, and well, you know how it's ended. But no, not a single actual admin who think about the community gonna try to invest their funds only just in working with competition, with trying to do something to rivalry to make them work worse. No, actually, most of the admins who are adequate, they understand what they need and understand their goals. They need to gather a certain funds and actually make profit for themselves and for the people who entrusted them with their funds. And we have products, different products. Yes, we have. There is some kind of a products like our, yes, but they are private one, like foundations or clubs, and they work with much bigger amount of funds and flow. We not we are the one who not actually the private club one. If we're talking about trading bots, there's a lot of trading bots in the internet, and we're talking it from our own perspective as people who actually written lots of trading bots. They could make a good number of profit. Yes, but there is also a situation we know when they could basically just dump the whole deposit to the zero. And we want to work on a clear platform, not just only basically working with rivals. No, we investing in our developments. We investing in our technologies and our products and our community. And if there are any projects who try to make some empty accusations to us, they will get what they deserve. Believe me, those kind of projects, I know 4 projects that would be punished. At the moment when we had situation with the dirty cryptocurrency, they were so happy, they were so damn precious with their opinion and their words, and believe me, they will get what they deserve. It's not going any other way. If you try to accuse our company, prepare to some consequences, because we stand our ground, we stand for our community, and we stand for our basic child, which is our project, our community, and it is what we live in for as well. The internet business as well is the most cruel and the most complicated kind of business in the world, because you can invest a lot and any kind of internet product, it could not actually shut. on the ground, in reality, you can actually try to work with some situations. You still could receive something despite the factors like you couldn't handle with the product or you didn't buy much materials or so on. But in the internet business, it's much more complicated. It's cruel, and behind this scene, there is a lot what the usual people not see at all. The customers, the members, investors, because behind all of that, there is psychological war. There's technological war, trying to get to the cutting edge kind of inventions and so on. There's always rivalry here. There's always war. But you, first of all, need to be a strong person to actually work in such field, because you need not only to be charismatic or maybe being smart, but also prove your worth, prove that you can actually show something to the market, that you have results and you can actually handle the situation and what is going on your shoulders. And I personally, thinking about my team, quite high, and about our products, they pretty strong. I know this field, we work in with this direction a lot. And believe me, I have experience in that. I understand what is going on here. And if anyone actually accusing us wrongly, especially, it will not go unpunished. Believe me. Now, the next question, I just read it from the chat itself. When it will be possible to start making investment deposits and working with the on the Monday? I already mentioned that on the Monday the official start, and you could actually start working with your funds with the partnership program, and as well choose any kind of way to unfroze your funds. Yeah, and technical support also going to be online on Monday. Okay, next question. This one from Victor. During the unfrozen funds, when you how would the process will look when you choose the pairs that go in with USDT, like USDT Bitcoin and so on? It's happening automatically, but the way when it's choosing the pair, it's depend on the pools, how they forming, about the situation with the technical core itself, but you can actually see inside the exchanges where exactly your funds are, in what pool and in what crypto pairs and so on. But that's discussion about technical model, which we gonna actually discuss on the technical Zoom calls. That's on the first question. And the second one, right here as well, will the display of the network structure be available in any kind of graphical design? Because right now, yes, right now it's not seen to have any, even the placeholder. We're gonna have the actual page where you can display, you could see the displayed structure of the network. It's not available right now from the start for the very reason because we not have the whole picture of accurate number of members who choose to stay or not. When it's gonna be done, then of course we're gonna make it actually shown to all the members. And we also adjusting the whole situation with the more deep levels, how it displayed for the members, how it displayed on the view in tabs. So yes, we adjusting the whole system from the ARP core to this one, to the OneTrade basically. The next question is from Gennady. Could you advise, please, about the situation with the termination of contract? Would the compensation come with the whole amount, or is going to be divided in pieces? No, it's going to be, of course, the whole amount on the date. The only difference here is where are you in this schedule? Because first of all, in priority, those people who arrived at the very last days of ARP core, and then go in the people who get earlier and earlier and earlier until we go into the main members and so on. But the amount is compensated fully at the date that is displayed in the page. The next question is from Ben here, I suspect from the international chat. Will the everyday percentage of profit changed? If is, and if there is any minimal deposits on Bitcoin and XRP. I'm gonna answer on the second first. There is no deposit on Bitcoin XRP. I mean minimal deposits because we work in with USDT now with crypto pairs, USDT Bitcoin, USDT XRP. To answer on the first question, no, the daily percentage, the profitability is not changed because you saw how work was done with the Bitcoin and XRP as well, and it was not complicated. It was stable for Bitcoin and for the XRP as well, so nothing basically changed. When you see how it worked with those cryptocurrencies, there was some decrease, but they were volatile, and it's going back to stable income. So no, everything not changed. The next question is when is gonna be the actual launch at the Monday? I think it's gonna be on the Zoom call itself on basically on 8 p.m. by Moscow time during the Zoom call itself on Monday. The next question is from Vitaly Teslov, which is from Ukrainian chat. Does the leaders with the actual great first line would need to put at least like $100 on a deposit to work with a frozen amount? No, if you have a big number of directly invited people, and the amount is already exceed 10% of the amount of unfrozen frozen funds, you basically can work without your own deposit. So yes, you can do it with this way. The next question is from Alexei about paying the funds that was not got to the balance. On the Monday, when the technical department, the technical support will be online, you can ask those questions when they actually could operate and get into the system and check everything out and help you with the more with more instruments at hand. So yes, wait for the Monday for all the parts that actually require technical support. Okay, there is a lot of questions in chats. I see the people actually find out that I answered the question through it, and there's a lot of them, but let's not actually make too much time on those questions. The next question is from Anna. About the conditions on 𝗟𝗏, does it change at all? Well, they're partially changed, but actually not at all because it's the same in conditions, but the proceeding, the whole process is increased because you're not in the public pool. You with your own pool when working in 𝗟𝗏 in OneTrade, and it means since you're working in a designated pool, it's more advanced pace for the whole transactions to proceed, which means the profitability is on the same level like in 𝗟𝗏, maybe even better. Next question is from Irina. Will there's going to be deposits and withdrawal on BIP20 or only on TON network? Yes, it would actually work with the BIP20, with Polygon network, with Ethereum, Tron, and TON. And also for international members, we're gonna work with USDC, but withdrawal will be prepared on the next week, maybe at the end, because we are currently working with this system. Next question is about could we actually start providing the referral link for partners right now? You better wait before the Monday in order not to lose any of the invited direct members. So just wait before the official launch when the whole system is going to be working. So yes, please wait before the Monday. It's not so long, actually. It's basically a few days before you can start working again. All right, there is lots of questions, most of them about the frozen funds. Most of the calculation going from 1.07% by arbitration, which is not entirely correct because when we're working with Bitcoin and Ethereum, there is a different percentage. On Bitcoin, it was from 5 to 8%, on Ethereum from 2 to 3%, but we put in the average on the line, it's 5%. But partners can actually work to reinvest and calculation from that or other way around their funds, and it's basically going to be correct on Monday. I I really appreciate that we everyone gathered here for that, and we start working again. And once more, we keep going with this same pace. We basically just need to start the official launch. You can prepare your own strategies and so on. This is gonna be a great launch for us. So once again, thank you for your attention. Thank you for arriving to the Zoom. Thank you from myself for listening to my translation. I'm gonna happy to see you on a Monday on the next Zoom call. We're gonna see again. Have a great morning, day, evening, or night, depending on your time frame. And have a magnificent day. See ya and bye bye.